Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to an all new video. Keeping up with the holiday theme from the last video. Today, I'm gonna show you how you can draw this cute elf from start to finish. It's all in real time, no time lapse, no stops, no edits, no cuts. So if you wanna follow along step by step with me, keep watching. All right guys, so let's go ahead and draw an elf today. Starting out, I'm using a 4000 by 4000, 300 DPI canvas. For my brush to begin with, I'm gonna start sketching. So I'm gonna use my HB pencil, which is part of my pencil pack that's available now. And for my color palette, once again, I've got this pre-made. So if you wanna download this exact same color palette, use the exact same colors that I'm using in today's video, you can head over to my website, bjadell.com, underneath the YouTube reference materials page, which I will link this down in the description below, and you can save this as a JPEG to your iPad and to the camera roll. And if you just go back into Procreate and go to your wrench icon, go to add, insert a photo, it's going to bring it in to Procreate as a separate layer, and then you can just long press each of the colors as you go through to select them during the tutorial. So let's go ahead and get started. First off, I'm just going to switch to black. And we're just gonna start sketching this. So once again, starting out like I did with my reindeer, I'm just gonna sketch out just a pretty big circle here for the head. That's gonna be the start of the character. And then from here, then we can kind of start laying out the body. You'll see, once again, just using really basic shapes to kind of get the look and feel of where everything goes. It's gonna be the body here, and then I'll start to kind of bring this down and around. You're gonna have kind of the elf outfit skirt thing going on down here. And then we'll go ahead and get the legs kind of laid out in here as well. Just kind of pulling those in from the center there. We'll do the little collar thing here, pulling that around. And once again, just going really loose with this. I'll start to clean up everything once I go back in and start to ink. Now let's work on the feet down here. Like the same collar look down here on the tops of the shoes. I'm going to shrink him down just a tad bit here so I've got room for the feet at the bottom. And then just kind of pulling some circles here, or some ovals. We'll kind of have the tips pointed out there. Have this one kind of coming out this way with the tip there. So we've got the basic body down here going on. Probably put a belt across here. And then for the arms, we'll just have these coming down at the sides here, like so. And then maybe, since his arms are going to be outstretched, maybe having him hold something down here. So if I draw in just some ovals here for the hands, maybe have him wearing some mittens. Pulling the thumb here around to the mitten there. And just have him, like I said, holding something here, maybe a string of lights or something like that. Now we've got that laid out, let's go ahead and go back up to the top here. I'm going to do a center line here, so you can kind of see where everything lines up at. And then do a couple of ovals here for the ears. Start to kind of pull a line across here. It's going to be the kind of part of the hat coming around. That folded up section there. And then we'll pull this up kind of into a triangle up here, and then have it come back down this way. Then we'll have a little circle here at the end for the bell, or I'm not sure if we'll do it a bell or do a kind of little pom-pom thing. We'll decide on that later. Now that we've got that, I can kind of start going in here and shaping out the face a little bit more. So we're going to pull the cheeks down. They come down here into the chin. Then have the eyes kind of set here, nose here. So we'll just do some big ovals here for the eyes. Maybe have some hair kind of coming out here, maybe a little curly queue of hair coming out here, and another one back in here. And then I'm gonna zoom in here a little bit so you can see better. Just kind of get some eye shapes locked in here. You'll see I'm using the ovals as kind of the guide place where it goes, but I'm not actually tracing over those ovals. I'm just using those more as kind of representation of where everything's gonna be at. We can get the pupils in here. Those kind of filled in. And the iris around there. Kind of pull them back out to see what we're left with. I think it looks pretty good. Do some eyebrows here. I'm gonna have these come out on top of the hat. So this is kind of like a cartooning thing that you can get away with. Is obviously eyebrows are gonna be on the face, but a lot of times in cartoons, you'll have the eyebrows actually come over top of a hat or come over top of the hair just to kind of give more expression. And that's what I'm gonna do with these, just to kind of build those up. Get a oval here for the nose and kind of build that around. Maybe do some little freckles there, and then do a mouth. We'll kind of have a smirk here off to the side. Bottom lip right there. I think I'll probably, probably pull, I'm gonna switch over to my pencil eraser here. So if I go to pencils and HB, there is a shortcut if you hold down to switch between the exact pencil and brush that you're using, to switch between brush and eraser, but I like to show it in the videos. I know a lot of people have left a comment. If you just hold down, it automatically changes that. I know that, but it's easier for everybody to see what I'm switching to if I actually go in and switch to it. So there's a method to my madness sometimes. Build up these ears around here and have that point on the end there. Some traditional elf ears. And that's gonna be the basic sketch of how everything's gonna look, where everything's laid out at. So now it's time to go in and actually start to ink this. So to begin inking, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna come up here to my layers. I'm gonna make a new layer, and then on this bottom layer here, I'm gonna hit that N for the blend mode, and I'm gonna drop the opacity of this just so we can kind of still see it, but it's not as dark. And then I'm gonna come back up to my brush, and I'm gonna switch over now to my cartooning set, and I'm gonna use my standard inker streamline to start inking this. Then I'm gonna come back up to my color palette here, and I'm gonna use this really dark brown, the first color here on the color palette. That's what we're gonna use as our line color to ink. So now that we've got that done, the next step is to decide where's the light source coming from, because this is gonna help us determine our line weights. So I've talked about this a lot in previous videos, but if you're new to the channel and this is the first video you've watched, determining where your light source is coming in from before you start inking is really important, because it helps you decide where thicker lines are gonna be. So I'm gonna decide that my light source is coming in from this top right-hand corner. So that means anything on this side is gonna be in the shadow. Anything here is gonna have that light source reflecting off of it. So items closer to the light source are gonna have thinner lines. The line weights of items over here are gonna be thicker. So determine this before we actually go in and start doing any inking is really nice, because it helps us decide those instead of just jumping into it and doing it randomly. So let me pull in here and we'll start to ink. I think I'm gonna start just up on the hat here. So once again, this is further away from the light source. So this is gonna be a heavier line back here. Make sure I've got the right line size here that I want. So we'll start to pull this in. You see I come over here and it's gonna be a little bit lighter of a line. It's not gonna be as thick. I'm gonna switch now my brush or my eraser to my cartooning pack, and we'll just go ahead and use the standard inker for this one. I can just fix those little parts there. So back to my brush now, and pull up a line here, and we'll kind of have another line coming up here and tapered just for that overlap there where the hat's kind of sitting in on top of itself there. And pull this out there. I think I'm gonna do another overlap here and kind of pull it in like that. And then we'll go ahead and do, let's just make this a bell. holding down here with one finger, and then the other finger locks that in. And for a bell, just a couple of dots here. Kind of come around like that. So there we go. Now let's go ahead and start working on the rest of the hat here. So I'm going to go ahead now and make a new layer, just because I might overlap some of these lines as I go around here. And if I do, and I'm on the same layer, I'm going to have to use the eraser and try to get really tight in there, and I might hit the line that I've already done. By putting these on separate layers, it's going to allow me to go in and erase without worrying about hitting the lines that I've already done. So with that new layer and still on my standard ink or streamline, just go ahead and pull this line up and around. And there we go. This time I hit them pretty good. I didn't have to do any erasing, so didn't really have to make a new layer, but I always do it just as a precaution to save me time. Pull this line across here. This though, I will actually use because I'm going across those eyebrows. You'll see as I make that line, those are going across those eyebrows, and I am gonna have those overlap, so I will need a separate layer there, so that kind of makes sense. Go ahead and pull the hair out here. Maybe a couple extra lines coming up back in there. I'll redo this other one here. And these lines, I want them to be fairly thin since they're on the inside there. Get this ear now. Again, this one's going to kind of be heavier line weight. Thinner in here since it's on the inside. And let me go ahead and do this same thing over here now. Those lines up and around, and then to the ear here, this one's going to have a little bit lighter line weight than the other one just because it is closer to that light source. There we go. Now let's go ahead and do the face as it comes down and around. For this, I'm going to switch back to that first layer of lines just because I am going to overlap here. And I know I'm going to because I'm going to start the line actually up there. So pull these down. I'm going to get the chin in there, so I'm going to erase a little bit there. And pull the chin up. All right, so there we go. Now I can erase this overlap, and you'll see how easy that is. I don't hit any of those other lines because they are all on a different layer. I've got this line kind of coming more straight and up at an angle right there, so I think I'm going to do the same thing over here to this one. Just to make the left and the right match up. And that's one thing to kind of watch out for as you're doing designs, that you really kind of want that same flow of the lines from one side to the next. All right, so there we go. We've got that in there. Let me check my layers here. I'm still on that same one here, so now we can go ahead and do the eyebrows on that one. So once again, I've talked about this before with eyebrows. I like a heavier line at the bottom. Kind of gives that effect of the shadow and the weight to the eyebrow. Same thing over here, lighter towards the top. Go ahead and do the curly Q hair here. There we go. Now we can go back up to our layer 3 and erase those overlaps. You'll see this would have been a pain if we did it all on the same layer and trying to hit that perfectly, so that saves a ton of time doing it that way. So there we go. Let's go ahead and get the mouth in here next. Line taper from here and go to a thicker part here where it meets that little curve of the mouth. The nose in here. See here, I'm not even going to draw this completely across. It's just a little taper there to kind of give the look and feel that it comes across, and then a little line there going up on that back side. Get these little freckles in here. Some across the nose. Some on the bridge here. And some on the cheek over here. All right, looking cute. I like it. So next up, let's do those eyes. See, layer-wise, I think that'll be a fine layer to use. We're not going to go over too much. So once again, pull a thicker line here. I like the eyes to be thinner towards the bottom, thicker around the top, and then thinner again towards the bottom. So just like that. And like that. And then we'll pull this cheek across here on the left and the right side. There we go. Let's get these pupils in here. A left and a right. Pulling the iris down and around. Going a little bit tighter here, so I've got a little bit more control. Once again, I've talked about this before. If you guys are using digital art, I really recommend just zooming in as far as you can, because if it looks good close up, it's going to look even better when you zoom out further away. So I always try to get in as tight as possible. In these videos, I try not to do too much rapid zooming in and out because I know it's kind of hard to follow. So in my own work, I'm usually doing this kind of thing constantly, really, really quick. I really recommend that you do something similar just to get in there really tight to be able to do some really detailed work and make sure that it looks nice once you zoom out. Add in some extra lines there just for some flair. Then we'll come down here and start working on the little collar thing here. That up. I don't really like that one. There we go. Looks good. And then we'll probably pull out some lines here, like it's kind of bunched up in there. Just like that. Now let's go ahead and come down here to the body. I'm going to get I think I'm going to do the belt first. So you'll see here, this stuff I didn't even draw in. I'm just going to do this more freehand. Do the belt buckle here. And then match the belt up as it comes across. Be a little bit wider on that side. There we go. A couple of tapered lines in there too. And then for the clothes here, actually, let's kind of bring these in and back out. So it's kind of got a thing there where it's kind of pulling in. Actually, let's do it like this. So it's kind of pulling in the clothes. You can tell it's kind of squeezing those and doing the work of the belt there. There's that. Go ahead and bring the bottom part around here. Try that again. Looks good. And once again, kind of have some of these bunched up lines coming down here. Probably do the same thing up here too. So it looks like that belt's kind of squeezing those in. All right, there we go. Let's go down here to the legs. We'll get these knocked in here. It's again kind of heavier here in the back. Lighter towards the front. I'm going to start with this front one because I'm going to have it overlap the back one. There we go. Some of those tapered lines coming out there as well. And then we'll go ahead and give them some striped leggings here. Just like that. Looking good so far. Let's go ahead and do the feet next. Once again, this one's going to be a little bit heavier line weight back here. this up and around, like so. And then get this one down here. That little curly Q there on the end, or the little point on the end. So that looks good. Let's go ahead now and work on the arms. So we'll bring these down kind of at a curve. Same thing here, match up the left and the right. So do one and then the other to make sure they're about the same width and the same length. And this is a pretty much straight on shot, so they're going to be about the same. And we'll get these gloves in here as well, or the mittens. So we're going to bring this around here, back up, and into the thumb there. Have the overlap there. And I think what I'm going to do is I want these to be about the same. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to come back up to my selection tool. And I'm going to use freehand, and you're going to see I'm just going to lasso this glove, and I'm going to copy and paste. So now I've got two of these. This one's on a separate one. If I go up to the arrow here and I flip horizontally, I can bring this glove or mitten around here. I'm going to turn off snapping. Bring this one up over here and just kind of fit it in over here so they match up from left to right. Just a little quick cheat and makes it a little bit easier. Erase that part of the sleeve. And then erase that overlap. I'm going to go ahead and combine all my lines now. So if I pinch all these together, all my lines are on the same layer. There we go. So we've got the left and the right mitten now. I'm going to go ahead now and let's see. Like I did with the reindeer, I'm going to just kind of add some stuff around here. Just a little pricklies just to make this look kind of wool-like. There we go. So we got the mittens in there now, and let's go ahead and draw whatever he's holding here. So pull a string here and a string here. Back down and around like that, and then maybe we'll just have some, these are just going to be little bell ornaments. And this is hard because we don't want too much here going on. It's going to be hard to read, so make sure that these are placed in a good area, that it doesn't draw too much attention away from what's going on with the clothing. All right, and there we go. So that's our basic inked version. Let me turn off the sketch so we can see what we're left with. And there's our inked version of our elf. So now we're ready to actually start on the color flats. So let's do that next. So to do the color flats, what we're going to do is we're going to come up here to our layers menu. We're going to make a new layer. We're going to hold down on this and drag it below layer 2. So it goes inks, and then it goes layer 3, which is going to be our color flats layer. So to drag and drop these in on a separate layer, what we want to do is we want to go up to layer 2, and we want to set this as reference. It's going to allow us to drag all the colors down onto layer 3 without affecting layer 2. So going back up to our color palette here, I'm going to go to the green. So use that for the hat, for the outfit. Get that there. And then let's go ahead and do the stripes as well. There we go. Next up, we've got red. So let's use that for the collar here. The part on the shoes down here. Whoops, hit the lines. Part on the shoes down here. I think I have an extra line there that I messed up on. I didn't see that. Let's just erase that squiggle real quick. I can go back in and drop my color. There's that. I'm going to go back and select green again. So I need to get the rest of the outfit, and then also the foot, which it's got a gap right there, so it's not connected, so it's filling in everything. So I just got to connect this line, and then I can drag and drop that color in on that layer. If your lines aren't connected when you're using reference, it's going to do that. It's going to fill in everything, so make sure all your lines are connected. Now that we've got that, we've got white up next. So for this, let's go ahead and turn the background color to just a different color. It can be whatever you want. I'm around purple right there, so I use purple. Then I'm going to drag and drop the white over here. If you leave the background white, you can't tell what you're doing and what's been filled in because the background's white, and it makes it look like everything's already filled in, but it's not. So we got the hat part, the eyes, little parts inside the eyes there, the highlights, and then the section down here on the leggings. So there we go. Back up to our color palette now. I've got yellow next, so let's use yellow obviously for the bell. Let's go ahead and do his hair yellow. Eyebrows yellow. Hair. And I think that's, oops. That's it for the hair. And let's do these little bells down here. Or lights or whatever they are, I'm not even sure. And then the belt buckle right there. So there's that. I'm gonna go back to red too and do the gloves or the mittens here. Get those in there. Then back up to my color palette. Got the skin tone there. So fill this in. Bottom of the nose. And then I've got this orange here for the freckles. These, I just like to do small parts like this by hand. It's a lot easier than trying to drag and drop those colors in to super small areas like that, because you're probably going to hit the edge and it's going to mess it up. So next up is blue. Use that for the eyes. And then brown for the belt. All right. And there we go. So that's our color flats filled in, our basic design with the inks and then the color flats. So the next step, we're going to start adding in shadows and highlights. So let's go ahead and use shadows first. Let's add those as our first. We're going to go ahead and go up to our layers. We're going to make a new layer here. And we're going to set this to clipping mask. So this is going to allow us to add in shadows on this layer, color in on this layer, but it's going to keep it attached to everything down here. So you're not going to be able to go outside of the lines. It's only going to clip to what's colored in on layer 3. And we're going to start out just using this black here. So we got so many colors. I'm just going to use black to do this. And once again, got the light source coming in from this way. So this side where we did the heavier lines, that's going to be our shadowed in area. So I'm going to go ahead and just fill in a pretty good chunk over here. And you'll see with the shadows, once again, I'm kind of following along with the lines that I already made during that inking process. So everything looks really natural because it's kind of flowing with that same curve that we've already done with those. That's what we're going for. Some over here and around here. I just want shadows to be on a lot of the different colors so that I can tell, okay, this is exactly what this shadow looks like on this color. It's what it looks like on this color. So that way I can adjust it accordingly. Got a little overlap there. I'm going to go in and clean up. I didn't get that erased all the way the first time. And if you do erase like this, and you're hitting those lines, since you're using those lines as the reference layer, you're gonna have to go back in and color in if you erase beyond that line point, because when we dragged and dropped that, it only took it up to the edge of those lines. So kind of keep that in mind. I think for the hat, I want to do this white part a different color, so we'll wait on doing that. I'm not going to do that black. But let's go ahead and come around here. Get some shadows laid in here on this side of the face. And I'm on the wrong layer. I did that last time and I'm doing it again. So let me make sure I'm on the right layer now. All right, yeah, I'm good. So back to the shadow layer. If you ever switch layers like that, make sure you switch back. It's so easy to just get carried away and do a ton of work and realize, wait a second, everything that I just did for the past 20, 30 minutes, whatever it is completely on the wrong layer, and I've got to go back, and it was a total waste of time. So definitely jump back and forth and make sure that you're where you need to be, where you're supposed to be. Just get a decent chunk of this filled in, and then I'm going to drop the opacity to make sure that we're where we need to be. I'm also going to go ahead and turn off reference. This is going to allow me to drag and drop this black in there now. If I had reference turned on, it just would have filled in everything again. So I need to make sure that that was turned off. See, once again, just kind of following around the lines there and how everything curves around. And then I'm going to switch now to just my standard inker. That allows you to color in just a little bit quicker because it's not locking it to those lines. Oops. Again, just following around that curve of the chin down there. And I'm going to do this kind of sloppy down here because I'm going to go back in and fix everything here in a little bit. Once again, I just kind of want to see what it all looks like to get that opacity set straight. Let's get in under here too. All right, so now I'm going to go back up to my layers menu. I'm going to hit the N for blend mode and just drop this down. I'm also going to turn my background back to white here. Once again, dropping this opacity down. I think that probably about 20% looks pretty good on this one. So we'll do that. We'll leave it at 20% there and then kind of come in here and start fixing some stuff. So once again, like I said, I'm going to clean this up down here. I'm going to switch back now to my Streamline inker. Just kind of follow around some of these lines. Once again, light source coming in from this way. Now I'm going to go back in with my eraser and erase some of these shadows. I've talked about this before too. I like to do some erasing on heavily shadowed areas just so the viewer can see that there are two separate colors there, or two separate values. If it's all one solid one, it looks a little muddy and you can't really tell that those are supposed to be shadowed just because there's nothing to compare them to once you get further over. So just erasing some little lines on the edges does the heavy lifting there. Sometimes it's not exactly right as far as where the shadows should be or would be casting off, but in the long run, I think it does more good than harm to kind of make those pop a little bit. Kind of clean up some of these down here, maybe add some shadows to the backs of some, erase some, add some. There we go. I'm going to bring this one over a little bit here. Down, and then once again, kind of erase a section there so you can kind of see the difference in the colors. I'm going to have it tapered the other way. There we go. Just like that. You'll see here too, I want the inside of the ear shadowed just like this one is. However, that whole ear is shadowed, so I can't really do that. So to kind of correct that, what I'm going to do, I'm going to hold down on this color. I'm going to come back to my color flats layer, and I'm going to recolor in the inside of this ear with that other color. Saves you from having to select another color. You can just go over to the side and pick it real quick there. And I'm going to do the same thing here to add in an extra shadow around the eyes here. This is a little quick way to add extra shadows if you need to, without having to go in there and select extra colors. By hand, you can just select them from what you've already done here. I'm going to go back to my shadow layer now. I remember to switch back this time. How about that? And clean up some more of this stuff. Get in underneath here. Oops, I need to switch back to black. Those in there. Maybe do some removal here around the lines of hair. Kind of bring those out a little bit. Maybe add in some extra shadows here, some tapers in the eyebrows, just to give those a little bit more detail. For those tapers, I'm just starting off by pressing harder, then as my stroke goes on, just kind of letting up pressure off of the pencil. It's definitely something that you gotta practice at and get used to. That's one thing that these pencils or these brushes were designed for, was to just give you some really, really nice tapered lines. Give you a lot of control over your line weights too. That, erase some of these extra ones here. And I think that's pretty good. Maybe hit a couple down on this bottom side. Then I want to do the white part now. So for this, I'm just going to go back and select that blue that we had for the eyes, and that's going to be what we're going to use to do the shadows in the white. Switch back to black to clean that up there. Back to blue. So we've got that kind of shadowed in. I'm going to do the same thing here around the eyes. Going to give those a shadow. Around here. Some dots here. All right, that looks pretty good. So now that we've got the shadows done, let's go ahead and add highlights. So to do this, once again, coming back up to our layers, making a new layer and setting this one as clipping mask. And then we're gonna go back up to our colors palette and just choose white. And let's just hit the edges. Once again, coming in from this top right-hand corner. The edges there. Get along the top of his ear here. Some, oops, went too far on the eraser there. Coming down the front of the hair here maybe. I'm gonna zoom in real close on this one to get it where I want it to be. From there, maybe the top of the eyebrow here. Front of the hair here as it comes around. I can do the top of the cheeks here underneath where the eyes meet. A couple here, and then big kind of oval one there. Looks good. Do one here on the chin. Down around the red here. So again, kind of taper in there at that line. arm and then the mitten. On the front there. Top of the shoe. Same thing with the point here. There we go. And I think going back to the shadow layer here, I want to remove a shadow here from the top of the ear over here. Looks a little dark. All right, so that looks good. So back to our highlights layer now. We're gonna hit the N and just drop down this opacity again. I think probably about 40%, 39, 40% looks pretty good. I'm gonna taper this one a little bit more here. There we go. Pull it down here too, like it comes into that. Once again, following those curves that we've already got set in there. That looks good. And then another one here. All right. Get a couple here on the belt. I think that's pretty much it for the highlights. So it looks pretty good. Now let's, for the final kind of finishing piece here, let's go ahead and do a background. So once again, going back up to my color palette or my layers menu, I'm gonna go down to the bottom. I'm gonna make a new layer, and then back to my color palette. I'm gonna select this light blue over here, this one on the second line. I'm just gonna drag and drop that in the background. I'm gonna go ahead and grab the transform here, the arrow, and with freeform selected, I'm just gonna bring in this towards the top here and towards the middle. There we go. From here then, I'm gonna use my eraser, and I'm just gonna kind of, oops, switched over here. Actually, let's do this a little bit different. Let's go with the selection tool here with freehand selected. Let's just go ahead and draw just a kind of curved line. It's on an incline, kind of going up that way. And then going back up to the layers menu, if we click on layer 6 now and hit clear, it'll erase that. So it's kind of got this kind of slope feel to it. Now with my eraser again, I'm gonna go up to my Christmas pack. So this is my new holiday pack of brushes. Talked about this in the last video about the reindeer. This brush pack is available right now on Gumroad, and it's totally free. It's my Christmas, my holiday gift to you guys. So if you want to download this, I'll link that in the description below. You can hop on over. You got 5 different trees and 5 different snowflakes. And I think for this one, I'm just going to use the tree 3, just a really basic tree here. And getting my brush the right size. Just going to kind of add some trees in here, just at different angles and different sizes. Changing this as I go. Just kind of whatever looks right to you. You can switch from bigger to smaller, go super small for stuff way in the background. That looks good. Then I'm going to go back up to my cartooning and just kind of clean these up a little bit. I don't want those gaps there, so just pulling that down. Maybe adding some mounds of snow there like that in between. Kind of got that negative effect we're going for. Now back up to my erasers, I'm going to switch over now to some snowflakes. And I find this is easy if you do this, if you keep one hand over on your size thing here when you're doing the snowflakes and just randomly change the size with your thumb as you're going. I say it's easy and then it doesn't work out like I want it to. Let's try it with my finger here. There we go. So you can just do these, just a lot of different sizes. Yeah, not really working out how I wanted, but whatever. And you can also switch between the different snowflakes too. So if we go back up to our eraser and go over to a different one, we can change those up as we go. I think that looks pretty good. So last but not least, make a new layer here and sign this guy and be done. All right, so there we go. Another holiday themed tutorial featuring this cute little elf to go along with the reindeer that we did a few days ago. I want to thank you guys for watching. I really appreciate it. If you like today's video too, make sure you give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and hit that bell for notifications so you can get alerted when I post new videos. Still going to do a few more holiday themed ones for this month, so definitely stay tuned for those. If you are taking part in these tutorials and you do any designs based on these and you post them online, especially Instagram or Twitter, tag me. I want to see what you guys are doing with the videos, so you can tag me at BJDell on those two platforms. Or if you're on Facebook and want to post them on there, I've got a group called Keep Creating, a group for artists by artists over on Facebook. I'll link that in the description below, a place where you can share stuff that you've done based on these tutorials or just any artwork that you're making currently. Want to see what you guys have been up to. So it's a place where you can do that, meet new friends, give feedback, get feedback. It's an awesome place to be. Want you guys to be a part of it as well. As for me, I can be found online, bjdell.com, as well as, like I said, Instagram and Twitter at bjdell. So until next time, keep creating.